Welcome to Bedtime English Buddies. Tonight we're excited to share the story of the time-traveling ring. The Viking Age. Chapter 1. The Mysterious Ring. Liam always had an insatiable curiosity for history. While other kids spent their free time playing video games, Liam pored over books about ancient civilizations and mythical artifacts. It was on one such afternoon, while exploring his late grandfather's dusty attic, that he stumbled upon a peculiar object, a bronze ring engraved with strange, intricate runes. The attic was a treasure trove of forgotten relics. Old trunks, faded photographs and yellowed letters were scattered about, but it was the small wooden box tucked in the corner that caught Liam's eye. The box was bound with a leather strap and sealed with a brass lock, but years of neglect had weakened it. With a gentle tug, the lock gave way, revealing the ring nestled on a velvet cushion. As Liam picked up the ring, he felt an unusual warmth radiate from it. A faint hum vibrated through his fingers, and for a fleeting moment he thought he heard whispers, soft and distant, like echoes from another time. Intrigued, he slid the ring onto his finger, and the world around him blurred. When his vision cleared, Liam found himself standing in a vast field, surrounded by a golden glow of the setting sun. The bustling attic was gone, replaced by a serene landscape that seemed to hum with life. Confused but exhilarated, he realized the ring had transported him somewhere, or perhaps somewhen. But before he could make sense of it, the scenery shifted again, returning him to the attic. Shaken yet thrilled, Liam knew that Liam knew this was no ordinary trinket. This was a gateway to the past. One of the 4,000 plus people who put out their music, it was not just a spectacular piece of work, but the mood and atmosphere were also an outlet, something on a grand scale of understanding. He thought as Liam took off his glasses and began to write a new one. The moment he was in the living room, Liam saw himself just a few feet away. His mind was still wandering about in the dark, his thoughts now reverberating with a joyful sound. There was nothing but light at the end of his lungs, and then he remembered what had happened to him. He was still standing in the middle of his plane. Over the next few days, Liam tested the ring's abilities, experimenting cautiously. He learned that by focusing on a time period he had studied, the ring would transport him there. The possibilities were endless, but he felt an undeniable pull toward one era in particular, the Viking Age. Liam had always been fascinated by tales of Norse warriors, their longships slicing through icy waters, and their fearless exploration of unknown lands. Now he had a chance to witness it all firsthand. Armed with a leather-bound journal, a sturdy backpack, and a determination to document his journey, Liam activated the ring once more. The runes on the ring glowed as Liam envisioned the Viking Age. A whirlwind of light and sound enveloped him, and when it subsided, he found himself aboard a wooden longship. The salt spray of the sea hit his face, and the shouts of men speaking Old Norse filled his ears. He had arrived. As Liam observed his surroundings, he noticed the intricacy of the Viking craftsmanship, from the dragon-headed prow of the longship to the detailed carvings on the oars. The crew was a mix of rugged men and women, their braided hair adorned with beads and their weapons gleaming under the sun. He couldn't help but marvel at their determination and unity, but he also felt out of place, a stranger in a time long past. Chapter 3. Aboard the longship, the ship's crew consisted of rugged men and women, each with a personality as vivid as the carvings on the longship. Their braided hair was adorned with beads and metal trinkets that jingled softly with every movement. Hardbrolf, the burly man with the red beard, was boisterous and quick to laugh, often telling exaggerated tales of his exploits that sent the crew into hearty chuckles. Freydis, with her piercing eyes and calm demeanor, commanded respect with an authority that was both firm and compassionate. She had a way of diffusing tension with just a few well-chosen words, earning her the admiration of everyone aboard. There was also Leif, a young and eager sailor who constantly peppered the older crew with questions about their past journeys, and Runa, a skilled archer who often sat quietly at the bow, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon for signs of land. These interactions painted a vivid tapestry of camaraderie and shared purpose. Liam, though an outsider, found himself drawn into their world as he helped with daily tasks, laughing at Rolf's jokes and listening intently to Freydis's stories about her childhood adventures. The ship was more than a vessel. It was a community united by a single bold dream of discovery. One particular evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the crew gathered around to listen to Freydis recount a tale of her ancestor, Eric the Red. As she spoke of Eric's exile and eventual settlement in Greenland, Liam couldn't help but feel a deeper connection to the Viking spirit of resilience and adventure. His admiration for Freydis grew, and he began to see her as not just a leader but a mentor in bravery and adaptability. Chapter 4: Meeting Leif Erikson. As the longship continued its voyage, the crew received news that they would rendezvous with another expedition. The prospect of meeting such a historical figure filled Liam with a mix of excitement and trepidation. He had read about Leif's pivotal role in Norse exploration but never imagined he would meet him face to face. When the two crews met at a secluded ford, Leif's presence was immediately commanding. Tall and broad-shouldered, with piercing blue eyes and a calm yet authoritative demeanor, he epitomized the Viking ideal. Leif greeted Freydis warmly, clasping her forearm in a gesture of mutual respect. When his gaze fell on Liam, however, curiosity flickered across his face. "Who is this young man?" Leif asked, his voice steady and measured. Freydis explained Liam's mysterious arrival and his invaluable contributions to their journey. Leif studied Liam intently before nodding. "You have the spirit of an adventurer," he said. "Perhaps you are meant to be here." Over the following days, Liam had the opportunity to converse with Leif, learning about his vision for Vinland and his philosophy on exploration. Leif spoke of the importance of courage tempered by wisdom and the value of forging connections across cultures. These conversations left a profound impact on Liam, deepening his understanding of leadership and purpose. Chapter 5: The Shores of Vinland. When the longship finally reached Vinland, Liam was awestruck. The land was lush and green, with sprawling forests and pristine beaches. The Vikings disembarked, their excitement palpable as they explored this new territory. Liam followed Freydis and Leif as they set up a temporary settlement, marveling at their resourcefulness and camaraderie. The crew worked tirelessly, building shelters from timber and gathering food from the surrounding wilderness. Liam joined in, learning to fish with nets and hunt small game with bows. His admiration for the Vikings grew as he saw their resilience and adaptability in action. But the peace was short-lived. One morning, as the Vikings foraged in the woods, they encountered the native inhabitants. The two groups regarded each other warily, their languages and customs worlds apart. Liam, caught between them, tried to mediate. He sketched pictures in his journal to convey peaceful intentions, and though the natives seemed intrigued, tensions remained high. That night, Liam couldn't sleep. He pondered the challenges of coexistence and the role he might play in shaping these fragile interactions. Despite the uncertainty, he resolved to do his best to foster understanding and prevent unnecessary conflict. Chapter 6: The Gathering Storm. Days passed in Vinland as the Vikings and native inhabitants cautiously observed each other from a distance. Liam had hoped that his sketches and gestures would foster understanding, but there was a palpable tension in the air. He could sense the Vikings' wariness, especially in the eyes of men like Hrolf, who eyed the natives with suspicion, and the quiet but intense Runa, who stood watch, her bow always within reach. The Vikings' camp had begun to take shape with sturdy huts built from timber, their fires crackling through the night, sending plumes of smoke into the sky. Yet even the warmth of the fires could not completely dispel the unease. Liam found himself caught between two worlds, both of which were just beginning to understand one another. One morning, as Liam sat by the fire, the scent of wet earth and pine trees in the cool morning air, he overheard Hrolf grumbling about the strange people they had encountered. He was speaking in hushed tones to Leif, who responded with a calm but firm voice. "We cannot judge them based on fear," Leif said, his voice steady. "They are as much a part of this land as we are. We need to find a way to coexist." Liam could tell there was more at stake than just survival. There was a deeper clash of worlds, the Vikings' boldness and sense of conquest against the natives' deep connection to the land. He watched Freydis, who had become a quiet voice of reason among the crew, as she engaged in discussions with the others, always aiming to find balance. That afternoon, Liam joined Freydis and Leif on an expedition deeper into the forest. The journey was silent at first, with only the sound of their footsteps crunching through the underbrush. The cool shade of the trees offered a brief respite from the burning sun, and the scent of the forest, fresh and earthy, made Liam feel like he was stepping into a world untouched by time. As they ventured further, the air grew thicker, and soon they stumbled upon a village, an unexpected sight. The native villagers had constructed their homes with great care. The huts were woven from bark and logs, camouflaged beneath a canopy of branches. Fields of maize and beans surrounded the village, showing the harmony between the people and the land. The villagers, with their dark skin and wary eyes, stood still, watching the newcomers. Freydis motioned for the crew to stay back, and Liam felt a deep tension in his chest as he observed the scene. His fingers twitched nervously at his journal, which he had brought along. He knew it was time for him to step forward. He dropped to his knees, drawing in the dirt, a Viking longship, followed by a sun, and then two hands shaking. He looked up at the elder who had approached cautiously. The elder studied the drawing for a long moment before he spoke a few words in a language Liam couldn't understand. Freydis stepped forward, her calm demeanor diffusing the tension. With deliberate movements, she gestured for the crew to lower their weapons and motioned Liam to come alongside her. His heart raced as the elder inspected his symbols once again, then slowly nodded. It was a small breakthrough, but to Liam, it felt monumental. The natives seemed less fearful, and a tentative peace was forged in the space between their gazes. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Liam sat by the fire, the warmth of the flames fighting the chill of doubt in his heart. This is what it means to bridge worlds, he thought, his fingers tracing the lines of the symbols in his journal. Chapter 7. Clash and Understanding. The following days were tense. The Vikings and the natives continued to observe one another, exchanging wary glances but not much else. Liam's attempts to act as a bridge were met with limited success. Despite Freydis' efforts, some members of the crew remained suspicious, while the natives kept their distance. Then one fateful afternoon, the two groups found themselves in a situation that could have turned disastrous. The Vikings had begun to trade goods with the natives, cautiously offering tools and trinkets in exchange for food and information about the land. But during one such attempt, a young Viking eager to impress unsheathed his sword to demonstrate its sharpness. The sharp ringing sound of the blade slicing through the air startled a native warrior, who immediately grabbed his spear and pointed it at the Viking. The air grew thick with tension, the rustling of the forest and the calls of distant birds the only sound as weapons were drawn on both sides. The Vikings stood in a defensive stance, their hands on their weapons, while the natives formed a loose circle, their expression The Vikings stood in a defensive stance, their hands on their weapons for the loose circle, their expressions a mixture of fear and defiance. For the Vikings had begun to trade goods with the natives, cautiously offering tools and trinkets in exchange for food and information about the land. The Vikings had begun to trade goods with the natives, cautiously offering tools and trinkets in exchange for food and information about the land. But after a brief silence, they found themselves in a situation that could have turned disastrous. The Viking was now the first group to see something very significant happen in a massacre. The Viking army had been working hard to preserve the city, but now there were no real signs of war. He quickly opened his journal, flipped to a blank page, and began sketching frantically. A Viking and a native warrior shaking hands, followed by symbols of trade, corn, fish, and tools. Fritis, seeing the idea, stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Wait," she said softly, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. "We come in friendship." The native elder, who had been watching quietly from the sidelines, stepped forward as well, his brow furrowed in confusion. Liam held up his sketch, his hands trembling as he pointed to the images. The elder examined the drawing closely, his eyes narrowing as he studied the symbols. After a tense silence, he lowered his spear. The tension in the air seemed to dissipate as the Vikings followed suit, carefully sheathing their weapons. The native warrior, still wary, relaxed his grip on his spear, but kept it close. Liam's heart pounded in his chest as he exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. In that moment, he understood how fragile peace could be. One wrong move, and everything could unravel. He had seen it in the eyes of both groups: fear, uncertainty, and the overwhelming desire to protect what they held dear. That night, as the crew gathered around the fire, Leif pulled Liam aside, his blue eyes piercing and thoughtful. "You have a gift," Leif said, his voice low. "The ability to see beyond differences, to find common ground. It's rare. Not many can do it. You remind me of the old ways, when explorers weren't just conquerors, but builders of connection." Liam nodded, a sense of pride and responsibility swelling in his chest. It was clear now, the ring had brought him here for a reason. He was meant to play a part in something far larger than himself. Chapter 8. Bonds forged in fire. Days turned into weeks, and the once tense relationship between the Vikings and the natives began to shift. Liam, who had always been a quiet observer, found himself becoming a central figure in the growing alliance. His sketches had bridged the language gap, and with each passing day, he learned more about the customs, beliefs, and stories of the native people. One evening, as both groups sat around a large communal fire, Liam shared stories of his own world, carefully crafting his tales so as not to confuse them with concepts they couldn't understand. He spoke of courage, of family, of the unyielding pursuit of knowledge, using the universal themes that tied all people together. The fire crackled as the Vikings and the natives listened intently. Freydis, who had always been a strong silent presence, leaned forward, her eyes reflecting the flames. "You are not just an observer, Liam," she said softly. "You are a part of this journey." Her words struck a chord with him. For the first time since his arrival in the Viking Age, he felt truly seen, not just as an outsider, but as a valuable member of this tight-knit community. The differences between them, once so vast, now seemed so small. Rana, the quiet archer, spoke up unexpectedly. "I thought you were only a boy from another time," she said, her voice soft but filled with respect. "But you've shown us that it's not where you're from that matters. It's where you're going, and the strength you have to take others with you." Liam felt a lump form in his throat, grateful for the understanding that had blossomed between him and these people. As the fire burned low and the night stretched on, he realized that the greatest journey of all was not the one that the ring had taken him on, but the one he had embarked upon within himself, a journey of understanding, connection, and the bonds forged through shared experience. Chapter 9. The Return. As winter approached, the Vikings prepared to leave Vinland. The settlement was temporary, and they knew the challenges of surviving in this new land would only grow. The natives too seemed to sense the impending farewell. Though there was no formal ceremony, gifts were exchanged: beads, furs, and tools that spoke of mutual respect. Liam felt a pang of sadness as he helped dismantle the shelters and load the longship. He had grown attached to this place and its people, yet he knew his journey wasn't over. The ring still hummed on his finger, a reminder of the countless adventures that awaited him. Before departing, Leif pulled Liam aside. "You have seen more than most men could dream of," he said. "But remember, it is not the places you visit that define you. It is the impact you leave behind." Those words stayed with Liam as the longships sailed away from Vinland, the shores disappearing into the mist. He gazed at the ring, wondering where it might take him next. Chapter 10. A new journey beckons. Back in the attic, Liam removed the ring, his mind racing with memories of Vinland. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for the experiences and lessons he had gained, yet there was a lingering restlessness in his heart. The world was vast, and history was endless. As he placed the ring back into its wooden box, a piece of parchment caught his eye. It was an old manuscript written in his grandfather's handwriting, filled with notes about the ring and its origins. One passage stood out. "The ring is a bridge between worlds, but its true purpose is to guide its bearer toward understanding, not just of the past, but of themselves." Liam's eyes lit up as he read the final line. "To those who seek knowledge, let the ring take you where you are meant to go." He smiled, sliding the ring back onto his finger. The attic blurred once more, and when his vision cleared, he found himself standing on the deck of a grand ship, its sails emblazoned with the emblem of a lion. The shouts of sailors and the cries of seagulls filled the air. He had arrived in the age of exploration. A new adventure had begun. This is the end of the story. Good night.